But look, we was just chit chatting, giving our viewers a chance to get on here. They're a little slow getting on, so we're gonna go ahead on and get started, and you'll see it'll grow as we get going. But again, I want to welcome the Tarpleys to the Neil's Appeal show, marriage, relationships, and other stuff. And so we're gonna be talking about. I love the fact that we bring these different couples on, and we get we expose ourselves. Like vulnerability to me just really helps when you can be vulnerable and help someone else, like you're taking it off yourself and you are helping someone else. And so we so appreciate you too for coming on, for accepting our request to come share some insight and some wisdom with our guest. Before we get started, I need y'all to remember, after you finish watching this live, go to the Neil's Appeal page and like, comment, and subscribe. All right, make sure you drop us a comment. Make sure you click that like button. As Fred and I are trying to grow our page and our viewership, and just trying to get this word about marriage out to as many people as we can. So y'all share it. Right now, we're gonna go ahead on and jump right on in. We got the Tarpleys, and we need for y'all to just start with how y'all met, if you will. Start with how y'all met. Oh, no.
Yeah,
Rewind,
yeah.
rewind,
You're
rewind.
getting ahead of yourself.
I forgot. So look.
No, you're getting excited. We got this power couple. A lot of people don't know Donald, and Nadine.
We sound so old, like we're ancient. Like that's the worst thing.
They're a young couple. Everybody see the vibrance. You know what I'm saying? Two good looking folks or whatever.
Yeah.
But for those that don't know, Kelly and I work in Nadine's shop, and we've just been like family for only a short period of time or what have you. And so I've talked with Donnie. Donnie, we seem like we've known each other for years or whatever. And so we have that same vibe, that same charisma. They after the same things that we're after. You know what I'm saying? So um, just a dynamic couple, and hopefully someone will learn something from them. This couple who live busy lives, and like Kelly said, we're so thankful for taking time out of your schedules. You guys have each other, you have your kids, you know what I'm saying? And so you have your hands full. So we appreciate of your time, to share with these folks tonight. So let's jump right in.
We do this thing, this game first we play. It's called Most Likely To, right? And so most likely to, what you gotta do, you cannot think about it long. You gotta point fast. So when I ask the question, you're gonna point at who's most likely to. And this is just a way to break the ice, to show the people, look, this is a safe space. We're gonna have fun with this thing. We're gonna talk, we're gonna be open. And also, y'all been together for quite some time. You're gonna tell us that in a minute. And so sometimes we be thinking we know what we know about each other, and then it'd be like, no, that's you, right? And so we just got a couple of questions we want to start off with. And so y'all ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah.
All we doing is just pointing fast at who it is. Y'all ready? All right. Who is most likely to text the other when they're in the other room?
I guess
It's him. It is definitely him. It is him. He wanted to say me because it sounds bad, but it's him. Continue.
Who is more likely to get grumpy when they're hungry? Attitude, huh?
Yeah.
Hangry.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, I don't get hungry often. So when I am, I'm like, why are we waiting? Let's go.
Yeah, whiny, impatient is the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Who is the life of the party?
No.
Wow.
Wow. Okay.
In what manner?
All of them.
Oh wow.
All of them. Yeah, I wanna entertain. I want to make sure everyone is entertained. I want to keep the drinks flowing. Like I like to see people happy. So I mean, in my home, I'm the life of like I'm the entertainer.
As long as it's her party, yes.
Yeah, but if it's other people's parties, then I go into a show.
Then it's reversed.
Yeah.
And then I'm the one that's like, okay, let's go ahead and get loose. And she's like, no. You're like, look, you done got me out the house now. You done woke up the giant. Let's party.
Yeah, let's cut a rug. Good.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Who is most likely to display public affection?
Yeah, I guess it probably. Yeah,
you got a point. You got to use your hands.
Yeah, she
You.
gets embarrassed.
Oh wow.
Really?
Wow.
Wow.
Cleaning
Really?
up and the whole thing.
Wow. All right. And then the last one. Who is most likely to bring home a surprise puppy?
And it goes right out the door.
Yeah,
do,
yeah.
do she have to take it back?
Yeah, well, she already did. Hey, you didn't follow the rules. You didn't take care of the dog. What dog got to find a new home?
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you.
You got 100 on the test. Fantastic.
Yes. So we just like to do that because sometimes we be like thinking the other one is the other, and it'd be like, no, that's you,
Mhm.
right?
No,
I
you
got
gotta
one.
be self-aware. You got to thine own self be true. You have to be self-aware. Like if not, then
Mm.
it's just like
I got one more though. I got one more, and this is off the riff.
okay.
Who drives the fastest?
She does now. It's crazy.
Yeah,
It's
it's
crazy.
me.
It used to be
He
me,
drives
and
so
then
slow.
now, and I got the fast car, but she
It's
Yeah,
drives
so
so
keep up
reckless
with
and
that.
fast. I don't know what the
It's so
problem is.
annoying. We trying to get there. We're not trying to meet and greet the sidewalk.
I
Like
just cruise, and she got to be like, I'm like, your car's a 4-cylinder. You
no,
gonna
but it
burn
has
that thing
twin
out.
turbos, so you put that thing in sport and you go.
You go.
Yeah, no.
My car.
I think I hate driving, so it's like let's hurry up and get there. Like I'm ready. He drives like he's just kind of
Well, because when I drive faster in my car, because it's loud and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
then she's gripping the seat and slow down, slow down. So I'm just like,
no,
all
because
right.
he opens. So the thing is, when the windows are down and all, like you hear everything, so it sounds so much worse than what it actually is. And I think one time he put G-force on me. I think possibly where I flew back in the chair, and I didn't like that.
wow.
So I feel like so
I-
many things can happen. So I mean, I trust my driving, but when he does it, it's just like he gets so excited, and I don't like it. No,
And then
Okay.
it's like, okay, mom, okay.
Yeah.
Slow down.
no.
All right. So tell us how y'all met and how long y'all been married.
Should
And
I can start with the part of meeting because she has these gaps in time, but and she'll tell you about the length because I'm kind of bad with that too. But we met. We were 16, 1996. We were 16. Uh, Crazy. Well, okay, we were 16. Worked at Winn Dixie. I just got a job at Winn Dixie. And I guess the craziest part is that we went to the same school. We only lived a couple miles from each other, but we never met. Unbeknownst to us, we probably never crossed. We thought we never crossed paths until that point. But then we started talking to each other later. Her parents' church that she went to every single Saturday was right in front of my grandmother's house. That I was always there, off of Orange Center Boulevard, over there by the Citrus Bowl area. So it was like I passed by this church hundreds of times with me and my brother and stuff like that, riding our bikes up and down the street. And I just see and I used to see people coming in, and I'm like, what is this? Like, what? Who goes to church on Saturday? So it was weird to me. But we probably across paths. And then she used to go to the same pool as us in Washington Shores. So there was a chance that when we were 5, 6, 10,
That wasn't 5 or 6.
well, I mean, like 10, 12 years old, we may have crossed paths a few different times. But the time we actually met was in 96 at Winn Dixie down the street from our houses. I was talking to my friend. Well, I'm sorry. I was talking to one guy named Nelson.
That was his friend.
Well, I guess so, yeah. About my then girlfriend. And he knew her. He said, oh, yeah, you're dating such and such.
He was
And
so
then
excited about it.
It wasn't even that. He just asked me a question. We just like chopping it up at the register. I'm a backer. He's a cashier. Then out of nowhere, I hear a voice say, this must be your first girlfriend. You real proud about that. And we both look like I've never even seen. Even the crazy part is it never even like registered because I worked there for weeks before then. I never saw her, talk to her until that point. And I'm like, what? It was like weird, and we were like kind of giggling about it and stuff, and then we became friends. We used to clean up at night at Winn Dixie, and I used to spray her down with water. I used to call her wet booty because I just spray her down with the Windex stuff and all that kind of stuff, and we just became friends. And she had a boyfriend, I had a girlfriend, and we just became over time really really good friends. It would be like
I think Donnie was like my best friend at that time. Like
we talked
all
night.
the time. Like we would fall asleep and wake up, and it was crazy because it was actually platonically friends.
Yeah, it was not.
It wasn't like, oh, I'm so attracted to him, and I don't think that was what he felt either. It was actually like, platonic friends.
Yeah, it wasn't. I had not that she wasn't pretty or attractive. It just didn't register in my brain.
Which is really weird.
It was weird. It was like it wasn't like I'm doing this to get in so we can be. It was just like we were just cool, and I didn't even think that she even liked me or like that because she used to say some stuff sometimes. I'm like, she's talking about a boyfriend. I'm like, okay, she'd be like, my boyfriend's gonna take me. I'm like, okay, cool, but she'd say it in a way that's like weird. But
what are you saying?
When we were at Winn-Dixie, but the thing was is that until she was so shy. She wrote me a letter. Shy. She wrote, and I had the letter for many, many years until I gave it to her for like, I don't know, it was like, 10-year anniversary or something like that. But she wrote me a letter. We were like, I guess we were 16 then. It that said like, "Hey, Big Daddy."
What are you like doing? That. What is wrong with you? Like, what is he saying?
It was a little white girl gave me this letter while I got on the bus.
Corey with the 2 different color eyes.
Yeah, I was getting on the bus and she said, "Hey, Nadine want me to hand this to you." And I was like, "Okay." And then I read it in the bus and I was shocked. I was like, "Oh, okay."
The story. You only have a little bit of time. The story is making it so long. My God. No, the thing is that I was shy. Like I was super shy. I still in many ways am now, but the things I'm comfortable in, I'm comfortable about it. And the things I'm not, I just am not. And it transfers to our relationship too. So, I mean, that was my way of getting his attention, but it was odd to me because one day I looked at him and I didn't see him as a friend anymore. Like it just kind of happened that way. It wasn't like I sought that out. It was kind of like I just looked at him one day and I was like, I didn't see him that way anymore. So I do remember that. So that's what I have.
I was aimless. I just like a dumb kid.
He was definitely a dumb kid.
My God, like in my world, football, I don't know.
Like any other teenager, I guess.
Lifting weights, football, just what's for dinner kind of thing.
Yeah. And we've been together, like if we looked at it from that perspective, that'll be 44 and 16 is like, what is that?
It's like
28, something like that years that we've known each other. So it's been quite a while. As a matter of fact, the anniversary to when we first decided to actually be in a committed relationship
after high school
would be last weekend. It was the weekend of Classic. The weekend before Classic. Yeah. So that would be like a 25 year kind of dating scenario.
No, longer than that. It's like 20 because I remember 26 or something like that.
You didn't tell us to have numbers together, Kelly. You don't.
Well, how long have y'all been married?
20 years.
20 years.
20 years. Mm-hmm. In those 20 years, what would you say was the, like, I guess, most challenging thing that you've gone through, or the thing that almost could have ended it, like, so to speak?
Well, I would say, okay, I'll say like this, because scenarios, it's very versatile in regards to that. What it really broke down to is each other having true, authentic appreciation for the other person and what they brought to the table. There was a lot of years I did not appreciate her in my younger years. And then there was many years she didn't appreciate me, and not willing to change for the betterment overall of our relationship. And when we fought back and forth to keeping this individuality of each other and not understanding that we are no longer a you or I, or it's not a me thing, now it's a we thing going forward from this point. Once that becomes, locked into your brain, you kind of look at things differently. And really it broke down to we're trying to preserve our individualities. The thing with that is you can keep that when you're single. When you're married and you live by the Bible, you live by these particular locked in roots, then at that point you see things differently and it's no longer a me thing, it's a we thing. Also, we live with so many multiple personalities. We live with wanting to be a bad boy, bad girl. We wanted to be. I didn't just want to be a mom or want to be a dad. You want to also be. I'm still the homeboy that my buddies can. We can all go out and go party because we were so young, married. All our friends were not. So when you're 24 years old, married, and that was not a common thing. And then all my fellas, they were dating ish, or in the same thing with her. It's like you don't have anybody in the same age group to bounce anything or see that positivity. Only thing you know of is where everybody's going to the club, everybody's bouncing from this person to that point, that person. So we're in two different worlds.
Can I interject real quick?
Yeah.
So I think that when you get married and when you date someone and then you marry them at such a young age without like real break between that to grow up, you go through a lot of growing pains. I have something in my eye. You go through a lot of what I call growing pains, right? The things that you may not be growing through when you get older, but the things that you're growing through that make sense at that age is what I think. And then, I think for me, it was a lot of what Donnie said, but it also was when Donnie and I were dating. You ever see where, how can I put this in a realistic way? When children decide that they want to leave home, but they like the safety of home, right? So they love the safety of saying that they can go back home to mom's house, and mom and dad's house, but they don't like to follow the rules of being able to be in that house. So it kind of feels like that because Donnie always felt like home. He always felt like home. Like, I'm not going to lie about that. Whether it was good or bad, it always felt like home. But it was definitely a thing where you felt like, okay, you always figure your parents' house is never going to move, especially when you come from stability, right? You figure that home was always going to be there on that foundation. So no matter what comes in that direction, that's a sturdy foundation. So if you get into trouble, if you act crazy, you always know you can pick up the phone, call mom and dad, and they'll let you back home.
Right.
Because I considered Donnie to be like home, I treated him like home, which meant that I always felt like he was going to be that safe landing space. I always felt like he was going to be willing to let me in. He was willing to be able to accept me as I was, right or wrong, deserving or not, because he equivalated to home in my mind. So when you have that, a lot of times you have a tendency to abuse that. Right? You have a tendency to abuse that kind of power. Especially when you know that there's leverage, right? Yeah. And so I think for me, that was the most challenging thing on how to reel back what was a pure thought to feel like home, but mishandling it made it impure. So I had to reel back in this thought process of going back to a baseline that I didn't even know I had.
And I can agree with, actually, that's perfectly said. Mismanaging of home for sure, and especially in the younger years, I can see that being the case, and it tarnishes the relationship. It tarnishes the outlook of how someone treats themselves, how you treat somebody. And I look back on that timeline, I'm just like, I felt so ashamed of myself. A 20-something-year-old kid trying to be grown, and it's just like mismanaging this purity. And we both did it. We mismanaged a lot of purities to the point where we're like, hey, it tarnished so much, and before you know it. And the thing about marriage is that no one teaches you, but when you're married as long as we have, is that it's not a case like boyfriend, girlfriend, oh, this has been going on for 2 weeks, I'm out, I'm done. Well, marriage is like, I'm gonna let this ride for like a year. And then after a year, if it don't work out, then I'm gonna do something different. Like, that's how you start thinking of life. You don't think of it like in small snippets of time. Like, I can give this a year to figure it out. If it don't work, okay, and that patience comes with just understanding like so many years into something. But when you think of it like that, you kind of mesh and you start to deal with that mismanaging of that purity on both sides, and it tarnishes someone on the inside that you don't even realize is happening until you step back at some point and you kind of wake up like, whoa, I'm not okay with this, and by that point, it may be too far gone. Hopefully not, but if both people understand and have a clear mindset on that, then it works. So the thing is with us, like I've said before, is that we've both been villains and victims. So it's a very, very unique situation where you see both sides of the spectrum. It's not like one-sided where you can sit there and be like, I don't get that side, so I don't know how to traverse this new scenario. This is a situation that both have been in on both sides of the spectrum. So we're kind of like, oh, that's hot. We got to work on that.
You ever hear that statement that people say that until you've been in my shoes, you can't teach me how to tie them?
Ooh.
Never heard of it. That's a good statement.
The
thing,
thing,
make that up.
I'm good.
No, you didn't.
I did. So
is that in that new book?
Might go that quick.
The thing is, though, is that when you have been in your partner's shoes, then what should literally happen at that time is you guys should both be taking the time to tie each other's shoelaces, because you actually understand both sides of this scenario. So that means you can neither be the judge nor the jury. You just have to kind of just sit there and be the defendant on both sides. You just have to kind of sit there and just kind of ride that wave together in a real way, because you can, it's like, if you continue to like go through life with your partner and you're just like on a scoring system, eventually you're all going to equal out to 100 eventually and surpass that, right? When it comes down to the things that you do wrong. Because I can guarantee you every single day, much like we do with Christ, we do something wrong to offend our spouse. I can guarantee you that. Even
like just a side note, even before this meeting today, I offended Nadine.
In a major way.
In a
huge way.
No, but come on, it's not that big. But it is major. Understand, it is major for us. It's not major for everyone else, because everybody's relationship is a snowflake.
Correct.
So some people are like, oh, that ain't no thing. To us, it's like, whoa, that's an issue.
Right.
And I was. Sometimes it takes me a second. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes it takes me a second to kind of like figure out what to say, what to do in that scenario. I'm not always so quick on the draw, because I have to go back again, being the victim and the villain.
Right.
You have to understand both sides. And sometimes when you do that, you want to grab onto the victim part and be like, but then at the same time, like, no, you were also a villain too. So you got to look at the other side. So I didn't even address it then correctly, but I'll say it now, and I do apologize for hurting you. It wasn't right, and I am sorry. That is growth, because that's something that it would take me 2-3 weeks to do.
Right.
I also feel like he's setting me up to be able to say I accept it right now.
Well, I'm just saying.
That's good. It's live. It's good.
I think it's huge, Donnie. It is big.
I used to ride to the wheels, but I would go so long that I would figure out how to flip it back on her, and then it'd be like, and then she'd be like, hold on, why am I defending myself right now like that? I'd be like, I don't even know, but we're gonna go with it. That's how it was. Like I would just go so left with it. But understanding these small things, understanding that even at 44, you always are growing.
Yeah.
You're always, even when we talk about these things, it reminds me so much why I married her. At the time I didn't understand it, but now it's the best part of my day. The best part of my day, waking up with her, going to work, going to the gym, whatever I'm doing. It's a purity of happiness. I can't even, some people say, well, why y'all not just go to that next level? And
what
for
do you
me,
mean by that? You mean divorce?
Divorce, yeah. And the thing is that for me, my most pure good moments in my life has been associated with this person. What I mean by that is that the happiness you have. Remember when we were kids?
Yeah.
And your mother and father be like, we're going to go to this, the water park or whatever you found super fun. And you'll have that energy that you came and scream like you're just so excited. It's like that's a reoccurring feeling when we are good. When we're good, it's like, it's undescribable, but it's just that purity of joy that I'm like, this is my partner.
He's laying it on real thick tonight. I'm trying to figure out
this is the truth. This is the truth. Maybe it was the prayer. Maybe it was the prayer before this thing started. I don't know. But it's the truth of the matter. That and the thing is, everybody has to have their why. I said this a long time ago with me and Nadine. We were going through it back and forth like cats and dogs, and I said, Nadine, you gotta have your why. I know my why. You gotta have your why. And at the worst possible times, you better hold on to that why. Now, whys do change over
Yeah.
time as you grow, but you got to have a why. You got, why am I doing this? Why am I with this person? Why do I love them? Why do I choose to do X, Y, and Z? And that why is going to be that anchor that's going to pull you through the hard times. Because there's going to be hard times. But the thing is that on the other side of that hard time is that beautiful moment.
Donnie,
You said I think that's good. You used the why. So you said the whys change and they escalate. So does one why trump the other? I mean, how does that work?
No, I don't think so. You want him to answer this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
I,
you can answer.
oh, I think that whys change and one doesn't trump it. It's all seasonal, right? So
Okay.
it's just like in the summertime, you have your shorts, your t-shirts. That's appropriate for that time. It doesn't mean that it trumps what you need to wear in winter. It doesn't mean that. It just means that's your reasoning now. It's just like a car. For you might like the new car, your why for loving is because it's fresh and it smells the new car smell and it's all these fantastic things. But as the car gets older, you might start your why might be because it's reliable, it's good on gas, you don't have to make car payments. They both have a very secure and reassuring feeling, but for two separate reasons for the same thing. So I
Yeah.
don't think the whys carry any significant weight one way or the other. I
Yeah.
think it is what it is. It is just your why. I
Gotcha.
mean, I think it's important to have it because the moment you lose that, then you kind of lose
You lose self.
you lose everything at that
Right.
point because now it's just like a crapshoot. Like you just
Why am I?
you don't even have an understanding. I remember when my mom passed and I lost my why for everything. And at that point, I also felt like it was, um, it taught me how to let go of someone that I loved, right?
Mm.
And that was a very scary feeling for me because I wasn't able to navigate that in a real way because I was never able to hold on to that. I never could ever fathom being able to let go of someone that I love so much.
Yeah.
And it scared me because I said, well, if I could figure out how to let go of her and submit her to the earth, I could walk away from anything at this point.
Mm.
And I literally carried myself that way, not intentionally, but because I didn't know what else to feel.
Mm.
And it took me a long ways to get back from that to figure out a why. My mom had passed 2 years in February. So we're coming up on that. And it just now got to that point where
mm,
I understood that. And we don't understand a lot of times every infraction, whether it be self-imposed or something that happens along life's journey that you cannot control, everything that happens has a cause and an effect. And
Mhm.
if you're not 100% engaged in that, then and aware of that, and have a partner to be able to trust enough to reel you back in, you will get lost. You will get lost and you will not find your why in real time because you have nothing to lose.
Donnie, Nadine, either one of you. So you all have stated before you've come very, very close to divorcing before, right? We
Right.
know why you didn't. The higher power, the understanding of yourself, awareness. But I want to back up to, so you said earlier about, y'all were younger, you didn't appreciate each other. Can we unpack just what, like, so examples of not appreciating would be like taking the person for granted. I'm telling you what I need, you're not doing it, or you're not giving me what I need. And so um, you know, the need to feel like you're just talking to a brick wall, right? Nothing's happening, nothing's moving. Um, the taking for granted thing, um, being disrespectful, or like what did not appreciation look like, and then how did you get to the point where it full circle? You actually sat down and talk about it and realized, and can now say today, I wasn't appreciating.
Well, I would say for me, as a young man to an older man now, um, the appreciation factors for small, medium, and large. Knitting took me as I was. So all my faults, all my idiosyncrasies, all my shortcomings, things I took for granted, she didn't hold those to me. It wasn't the case that she looked at me like everything. So it wasn't a case of, well, you ain't. I was not. I was always a go getter in regards to got to take care of the business, take care of money, got to take care of house, family, all that kind of stuff. My thing was always the all the. I would always say is this: I'm a good provider. I'm a good dad. I'm a horrible husband and boyfriend. At that point in my life, because it was a situation where if she was to clean up, or if she was to cook me a meal that she knew I would like, or if it came down to I would go out with the fellas. And I remember this. I remember I used to go out with the fellas. This is, I think we were barely, I think we weren't even married then. We were like, well, we were living together. So we were engaged. And I would go out with the fellas all night, come home at 3 o'clock in the morning, wake her up, like, hey, can you do my hair before I go to work? And I remember I would crash out drunk and inebriated, crash out on the bed. I wake her up at like 4 or 5 o'clock, and she's literally braiding my hair before I go into work. And I'd be like, all right, like you know what I mean? Like it was just like no appreciation for those, like you know what I mean? Like this is no appreciation. Like thank you. I may have said thank you, but I didn't. You know what I mean? But I didn't. I meant it, but I felt like she was more indebted to it. Yeah, instead of being like, you didn't have to do these things, but you did them anyways.
Yeah.
You know what? I think that first of all, the fact that he remembered that, but I didn't, gave me such a rational, it gave me a reality check of how many things I suppressed to be able to just kind of move forward, right? And put in these compartments. And so, just like we talked, you don't realize the scar tissue until it's open. You know the effects of it, but you don't you see the effects, but you don't know what it is until they open it up and see how bad it is, right? So, there's so many memories that Donnie and I have had that have been so dark and so like it's like you're living in a dark space and dark matter, like it's just midnight all day long, right? And the moment you get a little clearing of light, it's like you get this enormous amount of hope that the person that you once fell in love with is still in there. And so it kind of draws you back in. And then you see the light switch go off. And then you fight like everything you have in you to get back to that little piece of light, to see that person, that glimmer of that person, not realizing how much of yourself you're losing in that. Right? Because while you're sitting here waiting on this person to just be who they were, you lose little pieces of yourself in that process, and there goes the scar tissue. And Diane and I both have some thick scar tissue. It's thick. It is not thin. It's like keloid all over. And what I realize is that in order to get to it, you have to go through it. Like you cannot play with it. In order to get to the matter at hand and remove the keloid, you got to get through that thing and remove it. You cannot just sit here and kind of play around it. Like you have to get in there and get it. It's just like when there's an infection, you got to get in, dig it all out, and then work with whatever is left. And we spent so much time going all around the wound and not going in the wound that all we were doing was creating more scars and just growing that wound. That's it. It was the proper breeding ground for wound growth. And you don't realize these things until you actually sit back and look at the puzzle that you put together. The strings that you put together in your life, you don't realize that. And it's crazy because the things it is that he was the most annoyed by with me is the things that we fight tooth and nail to get back to that. Which is crazy because I remember there was a time when I used to just go lay on his stomach and be annoying and just want to be up underneath him, watching a movie or whatever. And then eventually, just like this chair, you start to just kind of dwindle your way over this way and it becomes comfortable over here because that's safe. That's safe in this spot. And so when before you know it, you're looking at each other on one side of the sofa and the other, and you're trying to figure out how do we get here. But if you didn't like it then, or you thought you didn't, or rather what he said, maybe not appreciate it, then you learn how to cope and be happy in that sunken place, we'll call it.
Right, and I think it goes both sides. It goes both ways. You know, you want somebody. I was a very closed off person. So she asked me, like, you know, she wanted me to get deep inside me. I'm like, I don't do that. You know, when I was young, I was like, nah, I don't really deal with my emotion like that. Like, I just kind of move, and I'm like, whatever. I just move on, whatever the case may be. Now, at an older age, you gonna hear my mouth when I got something on mine. You know, I'm not gonna just stay quiet on it and we just gonna move. No, no. We're gonna talk about what my problem is right now. Now, once I did my job by telling you my problem, it's your job to fix that problem, and vice versa. But so you can't say I didn't know that was a problem, because in the past I didn't say it. I just expect you to figure it out and fix it, which is ridiculous. But that's, you know,
Right.
the mindset of a person that, you know, of us really, but mainly me, because she used to talk, I'd be like, I'm not listening to you. But now you're gonna hear my mouth. I'm gonna talk. But now, and we kind of talked about this last night. Um, I have to take ownership on figuring out how to tell you how I feel, so this way we can fix the problem. But that was something that I didn't do in the day back in the day. That annoys her sometimes. Like, oh, you like, well, hey, you want me to open up? Okay, well, now I'm open. You want to deal with it. Before, you didn't want me to talk, and now I'm talking. You know, so it's different things. But to kind of go back what you're saying, Kelly, full circle is more of a situation as those things. Actually, this actually plays all in the same part. Once you start to lose those things you weren't being appreciative for, that became second nature, thinking, hey, why am I not getting this kind of treatment or this, that, and the other? Over time, you see how that stuff starts to go apart and everything kind of like breaks apart more and more and more. And now you got to work backwards to get everything back right. And then it really, more than anything else, it breaks down to verbally acknowledging your wrongdoing in the matter, not placating to it, not trying to make yourself sound better, but hey, you know, I did this. This was not right. I
Right.
did this X, Y, and Z.
Do you know what
It takes-
happened? Oh, go ahead.
No, it takes time and maturity for a person to step on that grenade, because it's not fun. Now the person that hurt the person, you got to relive that shame.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we sit there and we don't talk about it. We try to, you know, make it sound like it's not as bad as what it is. But you know what? It's the things that you're trying to cover your own shame, so you don't feel so bad about the situation you put somebody else through. That was the hardest part, because after years and decades of shameful acts and different things, small, medium, and large, you got to sit there, like Nadine says, and open up that wound.
Mm.
And it's not, it hurts the person that had to deal with it as the recipient, but the person that was the villain in that matter, it makes you feel disgusting,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
especially when you're no longer that person. And it's something that we try to shield ourselves from. But I had to go through it. She had to go through it. And it's not a hard, this is where marriage is not for the weak. If you actually want a real marriage to work after the damage has been done.
Can I just say this too?
Mm-hmm.
Because damage happens doesn't mean it's not a real marriage.
Mm.
Mm.
I just want to be clear on that.
True.
I'm not saying what you said was wrong, but marriage is real from the time you stand in front of God and say, I've created this covenant and we in here. Like
Yeah.
Donnie likes to say, well, we all on the plane now. Like,
How about Trump?
no. At the end of the day,
Like it or love, hate him or like him,
we're
I
all
love
on
him.
the plane now. And so the thing about it is that at the end of the day, marriage is real. And it's always going to be, okay, let me put a disclaimer. Unless there's abuse going on, that is the only, unless
Yeah.
there's abuse going on, anything else, and I even say that with asterisks, okay? Unless there's abuse going on, then that marriage can still be fixed. I'm not going to tell a person that's being abused to stay, right?
Right.
I'm not going to say that. But the thing about it is that how can I put this to make it make sense? The thing about it is this. I will not even say someone that is an abuser cannot change. I won't say that. I'm not telling you whether to stick around for it or not.
And abuse can take so many different shapes.
It could take so many different shapes and forms, right?
Right.
The thing about it is that we like to play around with this thought that God said it's okay to leave my husband or my wife because she's annoying. We take this precedence that I can leave my husband if he doesn't know how to provide for me because of irreconcilable differences. Because we make it sound pretty. And then we go sit up in the church and we go raise hands and we go look at sister or brother so-and-so because they drunk or they this or they that. And we forget that that covenant that we made is still breaking God's heart. And that's still something that's not working because he only gave you, he literally only gave you one pass. One pass. It did not say hurt was the pass. It did not say aggravation was the pass. It did not say because I'm tired of you, that's the pass. It was one pass. And once you choose to forgive someone and say, we're going to work this out, you can't go back and revisit the past. That's not how that works. So either, and Donnie used to hate when I say this, but I'm like, well, I guess we're just going to be mad with each other and just live a miserable life. And Donnie had said, well, I'm not signing up for that. Oh, yes, you are. Because we think because we've curtailed the word of God to kind of acquiesce to what we want, as opposed to us transitioning to what God wants for our lives, that we think it makes it right. And that's wrong. That is so wrong. It does not change. It will not change. It forever remains the same. So that means if I believe that God made Donnie for me and I was made for Donnie, if I believe in that, then I believe that no matter come what may, no matter what it is, that we have the tools to be able to work through it. If I believe that.
And to piggyback off what she's saying now, because we have two different ideologies in this thought process.
We do.
So, and what she says, that's hers, which is fine, and it makes sense. And it's not that it's a bad thing.
It's the right thing.
But sometimes, in that scenario, people get caught into what we got caught into, which is you're not going to leave, I'm not going to leave,
So we
don't got to change. So now you're going to just deal with it. Or that argument, instead of trying to deal with the argument because in fear of that person leaving you, I'm just going to let it ride. And that happened too for a very long time for us. So my thought process started to change of saying, yes, what you're saying makes sense. And yes, everything is true, but I still have the opportunity and option to leave. And when that option to leave is on the table, people get a little more, oh, you know what? Oh, you actually made, yes. If you can't appreciate me and I'm doing everything that God is telling me to do and you still want to do this, I'm giving you the option to correct the course. If you don't want to, this is my other option. Now, we've been through any and everything you could think of, and I haven't left yet. So I'm saying that, but the thing is, I don't put myself in a box of saying I have to stay here. It's a situation where I want to stay here. It's a situation where I want to fix the scenario. Not that I'm obligated to, but I want to. Because when you just say, well, we made this covenant, and now God says you got to do this till you die. It all depends on the mindset of the person, but sometimes you can get lulled in the sense of security in that case of, I don't need to fix this today. Let's talk about it tomorrow. Let's talk about it next week. Let's talk about it next year. 20 years down the road, it's a decade later, we still haven't talked about it.
So let me piggyback off of what he's saying real quick. So I understand what he's saying, but here's the next thing. We use the word divorce like it was candy, right? So it became a tool to be able to get someone to kind of shimmy your way or to be able to change for the moment or whatever. It was a tool.
At that time.
And so I think that what we need to realize is words carry weight. Right? They carry a lot of weight. When we decide to say, you know what, I have that option. Of course you got options. God gives us choices. Right. But doesn't mean the choices are right. Like, of course, the options are always there. It does not mean it's right. Because we you have to consider is what I consider. You don't have to. What I consider is the blessings that I have in this life right now. I would have maybe had them still, but I would have had to work triple as hard to be able to work on a blessing God was willing to hand me right out. Right? So that means I've just taken some time off of my life trying to work a problem, a different route. It's just like arithmetic. The way they teaching kids math right now seems so complicated.
Yeah.
When we just knew 1 + 1 = 2, now you got to do some other mess to be able to get to that. Right. If we just work the problem the original way, the way that God intended it for us to work it, and at that point, it would be so simple to navigate everything else. If we work the problem like I don't have a choice, but I want to be happy in that. My choice is that, here's the thing, I do have the choice, but if we work the problem like divorce is off the table, but I still want to be a happy person in that, then you work the problem the original way God intended. When we say stuff like the word of God, not we, if I've offended my brother, I should go to him. That does not omit your husband or your wife.
Right.
That's a blanket statement. Right. That means that if I've offended him, I need to go to him and correct that. And if it doesn't work, I need to go get the elders of the church to come with me to go figure this out, because this is what it is. Yeah. It doesn't omit him. And if we're supposed to love each other the way Christ loves the church, that means I'm doing a lot of things wrong if we get to the option of divorce.
And something Pastor Walden said to me.
She liked that. You didn't even acknowledge that.
I did.
That was good, Nadine.
It was heavy, but she putting too much emphasis on it.
No, I feel like she's right though. I feel like Fred hating. It's okay. It's okay, Kelly. I understand.
No. So, wait, Donnie, were you about to say something?
Well, no, just to piggyback off of what she said, but Pastor Walden told us before we got married. It's such a simple thing. Like she said, it's simple mathematics. If you are doing everything you humanly possibly can do to make her happy, and if she is doing everything humanly possible to make you happy, what can go wrong? And that's a 1 + 1 = 2. We make this calculus problem for this. It's like, it's not that. If you want that to happen, and two people of like-minded thought processes will win. But when you guys are not in sync, and that goes back to being it's somebody equally yoked. Yeah. Like-mindedness, all the different things. It's all the same thing that our elders have told us for so long. If you are on the same page, nothing can stop you.
Nope.
And that's the problem. That's always been the problem. That was our problem.
Yeah. I'm trying to say something.
No, I'm sorry.
You going right down the alley that I wanna just park right quick and walk through the back door. So we've been talking. You all have mentioned the hurt, the pain, the whatever, right? So yes, there was grounds for divorce, could have been, right? But somebody has to.
He's trying to be technical and done did this. Go ahead, Kelly.
I'm sorry.
You're good.
Somebody has to be the one to say, okay, this got to turn around, right? And so it may not have been one or, it could have been both and, right? So the conversation piece starting, the awareness of, okay, something needs to happen, this needs to be fixed. Who initiated that, one? And then two, Nadine, jump in on that forgiveness, right? Like you said, because when you forgive,
it removes yourself out of the way and allows God to deal with that person directly. So I think that there have been so many times that Donnie and I have hit the reset button that it's hard to calculate who does what.
Yeah, it's always
one or the other, and it's never the same page because we're both looking at each other like, well, who's supposed to make the first move? Because I'm not.
And even when we talked like we never did until we came with that thought process. The most recent, we've tried so many different facets of different things, but the one that came and it broke down to a point of when God said, okay, we're ready. It's when I said, let's take 30 days. And what we're going to do is we're going to give the best because a couple things. One, and like we talked about before, Kelly and Fred, if we were to break up, we would have to be the better person. We would have to fix ourselves then for somebody else. And or we can fix ourselves for each other.
Come on, Donnie.
So either way it goes, you're gonna have to do some work at some
You
point.
sound like a preacher when she over there anchoring you on.
But at the end of the day, what we did is said we're gonna take 30 days and we're gonna give the best possible outcome, best possible versions of ourselves to each other. And what's gonna happen in 30 days? And what has grown in that, what has grown in that 30-day time frame, and we just added another 30 days, another 30 days, another 30 days. And what you'll find is that the conversation becomes softer. What you find is that the patient level become greater. What you find is that you guys actually start having real conversations, and it's lighter. The house is lighter, you're lighter. And over time, you recreate and reignite that friendship from when we were 16, now at 44, about to be 45. And kind of remember who we used to be at the root of each other. We weren't thinking about boyfriend, girlfriend. It was a boy and a girl. And we just, God, divine intervention, brought us together at some of the darkest times when she was younger, dealing with some really deep things. And I've never dealt with those type of things before in my life, going against somebody else. And I was like, I'm going to stay on the phone with you till the morning until I make sure you good. Because I don't feel right trying to go to sleep. And I'm 16, knowing nothing about nothing, but knew that this person reached out to me as a friend, needing my help. And we didn't even know each other that well.
Yeah, we didn't. So let me let's tap in real quick. So when you were talking about forgiveness, it's so interesting when you have light bulb moments, even when you don't anticipate having them, right? So I realized that in order for that 30-day plan to work, not only did I have to forgive him, because I already did that. That wasn't the problem. I had to forgive myself for the things that I did. Like, so walking around acting like it wasn't that bad is a thing that allows you to cope in a poor way. So it allows you not to act like that person should really be affected in this way, right? So it gives you almost like an arrogance about yourself. You have to become so humble with yourself, right? And realizing you got to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? I don't like what this is giving. I don't like what I'm becoming. I don't like who I've become and who I have the ability to become in a worse way. I don't like it. And I think what happens is just like when a person is like a drug addict or drunk or whatever, they feel like that defines them as a person. And so they then become the problem instead of like separating the two. I have Nadine. That's one entity. The problem is not Nadine. The problem is something Nadine is facing. Two different things. When you start to identify yourself as the problem, that is a big problem. When you start to sit there and say, okay, I am a cheater, I am an abuser, that's who I am. That's who I am. That's my title. Then you start to really embody that. That's just like I'm a hairstylist, right? That means when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to embody that all the time until I separate Nadine the stylist from just Nadine the person. At that point, you don't realize, like, you have to separate the two, and then you have to forgive the problem and then come back and forgive yourself. And you have to be able to work them separately. And I think because I was so afraid that whatever I did was going to continue to come back in this cyclical way, I held myself so reserved and I held myself hostage to any semblance of happiness because I was waiting for the gavel to drop. I was waiting for it every time. I was just waiting for it. So you live in this like hostage negotiation scenario in your head every single time, playing out the worst case scenario. And that's an awful place to be in. But it's also a self-sabotaging place to be in. So when you say forgiveness, I had to even remove myself out of the way so God could deal with me directly. That's crazy. But that's a real thing.
But aren't you going to have like, okay, so we forgave each other, but aren't you going to have moments of that girl walk down the street, she fine, is you looking, what are you doing?
Absolutely.
That man walk down the, like, So you're forgiving, but these moments are going to keep coming up that rehash and bring up, you
So
know.
forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. Let's remember that, because the forgiving, we have brains, right? It's not like it just goes into the valley of never happened, right? It doesn't work that way. I can forgive you, but maybe it doesn't sting as much as it did the day it happened, right? So the thing about it is, Donnie and I have dealt with that same scenario that you're talking about. We've had fights about it. Well, let me curtail that. We've had arguments about that. We have had disagreements about it. We've had all sorts of situations with that, until it had to become clear. First of all, you have to make your spouse so clear of who they are to you that it is undeniable.
But
It is
even before,
hold on,
go
and I'm
ahead,
gonna
go
let
ahead,
you
go
have it.
ahead.
It's unquestionable. But I also had to realize I didn't want to make Donnie feel inferior to anyone else in the world. Because even like, you have situations that happen when you, and I swear I think it's the devil half of the time, because it just happens so exact, right? Donnie, I'll use me as the example. There'll be a man walking by who could be an attractive person to most people, including myself. Like, that could be a thing, right? He'll walk by. I'm not aware of the walk by, and I just so happen to look up at my scenario. Donnie might have seen that person first and is already angling his eyesight to me when I'm already looking that way, which makes it look like it was 20 seconds versus a millisecond, right? And so, and it's a real thing. And so automatically Donnie's disposition to change, and I automatically know what's happening. I automatically know what's happening because I created a scene in the past that would understand this is going to happen, right? And so I'll try to talk him off the ledge around the mulberry bush. I try to, like, it's all of that, but because of the past, it's in his mind and embedded so deep that whatever you saying, I can't trust that. So no, that's what you were doing. So I don't know how you say you got through that.
Well, so in regards to that kind of, okay, I guess the point, point in case in this case would be like, we had a conversation at the lake. And it wasn't an argument or anything like that, but it was, well, two things. One, sometimes being so precise about how you actually feel in the moment on the scenario, your most vulnerable, true, authentic self, allows the other person, for one, understand your true thought process on the situation. If you're leading with anger of why would you do that? That's disrespectful, yada yada yada. Those are real things.
Mm-hmm.
But when you go deeper and says, "Hey, you doing that? Whatever the case may be, you doing that. I'm telling you how I feel. It made me feel inferior, and to a point in my life in the past, I don't ever want to feel again."
Right.
Now that would key off. That's vice versa. But hearing that, it says, "Oh, I don't ever want you to feel the way I made you feel in the past.
Yeah.
I have to course correct this immediately."
Right.
And you have that real authentic conversation, but starting with not leading with anger, and even when you're hurt in a situation, still leading with love.
Right.
Meaning, I'm telling you truly how I feel about it. Not that I'm just angry and you tried me and I can't believe this and why after all this. No. Hey, this is what happened. I'm telling you, this is what you brought me back to.
Mm.
You know what? So let me just give this a different perspective, just a slightly different one. I think that being angry has its place, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's a raw emotion. I also think that being leading in love has its place as well, and that's always right. That's an emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Happiness, sadness, anger, whatever. Those are all emotions. Those things, they're fluid. They dissipate. But I think that just like with your children, you know what? When I tell my daughter I'm so disappointed in her, it does something different to her heartstrings than me yelling at her.
Mm.
Because that places it back on them to be able to look at their actions as opposed to fear. Two different feelings. One is teaching you how to be accountable, one is teaching you how to retreat.
Mm.
Mm.
Different feelings, right? I understand, and I have to be honest with myself. If something happens, my knee jerk reaction is to get upset, especially if Donnie, I feel like Donnie's not holding himself accountable.
That's
right?
a natural feeling. I do it.
Right. If you're not holding yourself accountable, my knee-jerk reaction is to be explosive. That's not going to get anywhere except for making me feel better and then worse, right? At the same time, it has its place because I still have to be my authentic self with him. I need you to know that this hurt. When you stub your toe, do you know what comes out of your mouth after that? If you stub it on the side of the bed, there's emotion that comes out of that. And none of us want to say in church, like, I get it. Like, it is what it is, right? The same thing with an emotional kind of stubbing your toe on the side of the bed. It's the same feeling. It's like it's the knee-jerk reaction. And then after that, what happens is you start holding like, oh my God. And then you deal with it in a more rational way once that initial feeling goes away. I think that a lot of times we forget as married people how to, first of all, extend the same grace that God extends to us every single day, countless times a day. We forget to extend that same grace on a constant basis. The same grace that we expect every day from God, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we act like we can't just extend it at a minimum. That's number one. The same level of forgiveness that we expect from God every single day to make it into heaven, we don't know how to extend that. But from the same measure I learned to forgive you is the same measure he's going to forgive me. We forget that reciprocity thing. Whatever I'm doing here comes back. Like it's a cyclical thing. Like this is what happens. And we act like it's so crazy. We act like God is indebted to us. We're indebted to him and the way that we govern ourselves with each other. The same way I judge him, he's gonna judge me. That's a thing. And we don't understand the tools that God gives us is so easy. We're the one that make relationships so hard. It is not that hard. It could actually be quite simplistic in the loving part because life is already guaranteed to be hard. Right. The relationship does not have to be. We make it hard because we choose not to exude discipline because it requires discipline to say, no matter what, I'm going to choose to love you. It requires discipline to say, no matter what, I'm going to wake up and give you a hug, even when I'm upset. That requires discipline. That it does actually require that. At the same time, we act like our love should not be as fluid as God's love for us. My love is not a tool. It should be something that I give freely. You should be able to feel my love for you because here it is. Donnie used to not understand why even after we got into an argument, I would still give him a kiss on the way out the door. And I told him, I don't know what's going to happen between the time I leave this door and come back to this door. Even though I'm upset, I don't want your last envisionment of me as me walking out the house angry. I don't want that, even if I am. I want you to remember that I left this house and gave you a kiss. He did not understand that for the life of him. And maybe he still doesn't. I don't know. But the truth of the matter is we have no understanding of when lights out. No understanding. And why are you leaving crumbs on the table with the person that's going to have to bury you anyway? Love you to the most. Why are we leaving crumbs on the table? So that's how I feel about it. Not even Fred shook his head.
Well, I mean, it's horizontal and it's vertical and horizontal. You know what I'm saying? Right. So you just express the cross. You know what I'm saying? Right. His love for us. He died on the cross. Why he had to hang up there for as long as he did. Embarrass, nails in his hands. In his feet. It's just, and we argue about petty stuff.
100%. Like right. we do such a disservice to our belief system. Like, like I told you guys yesterday, we use love so fluidly. I love my shoes, I love my car, I love my clothes. In that same word we used to say, I love my children, I love my family, I love my spouse. That is crazy. There's no measure to that. Yeah. There's no measure to that. That means that we've placed everything on the same playing field. So how can there be any sort of demarcation as to how I'm supposed to actually love you, right? Because if I love you the same way I love my car, that means that you're valuable. That means that once you lose your value, time to trade you in for the next thing, which people do every single day. Right. So you've learned to equate love to being such a valuable thing that once you lose your value, I can hang you up, and that's how people treat marriage. They treat it like it's on a value system, and it's not.
Yeah.
You said, you said earlier, you know, when you're talking about relationship, it's not the relationships that fail, it's the people that fail each other.
Mm-hmm.
And the getting together and talking about the thing, bringing it to the surface, bringing it to the forefront, you know, you and him, me and you, right? Talking about it. Let's help the viewers with the girlfriend's aspect or take on it. You mean tell me you stayed, you ain't leaving, you this, you ain't that. Touch on that. We touched on it a little bit when we were talking about just people having something to say and, you know, sharing stuff with um certain individuals that you're close to or care about. The marriage is, I think we get that outside noise, right? And so I think this is a subject. I so appreciate y'all just talking about this because I think a lot of couples go through this, but don't have the courage to give it space.
Give it legs.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what we call. We call it
Give it
give it.
legs. Yeah.
We give it legs. The moment you don't, just from this little snippet here, the moment things in that talked about, and you don't give it breathe, you don't give it life, you don't give it legs, it stays there. It stays in your mind. It never can get resolved. It just stays right there. It will always live right there, unspoken, and forever will just tarnish a relationship night and day.
So I think the thing about friends and outside noise is that, first of all, like Donnie said, every relationship is a snowflake, right? First, we have to consider that these people aren't married most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't been married long enough to have gone through anything yet. That's the first thing you have to consider. So that's like going to Dakota asking for relationship advice.
Mm.
For the viewers, Dakota is 7. It is not going to work that way. As stupid as that sounds. That's the first thing. The second thing is you have to look at the posture of the heart of the person that you're going to,
Mm.
right? Because if Kelly came to me, I'm gonna use Kelly as the example, and said, Nadine, you know, a friend and I are having a problem, and this is what it is. My knee-jerk reaction is not going to be, well, I guess we're going down to the courthouse. That is it doesn't matter what it is, unless Fred blackened Kelly's eye. That is not my knee-jerk reaction, right? My knee-jerk reaction is, okay, wait a minute. Maybe, and I do it all the time, and I hate when I do it, but I'm like, maybe y'all want to come talk to Donnie and I? Maybe we can work through it. I always start there.
Mm.
But the reason I do while he's giggling is because I think that there is power in knowing that there's someone else that got through it that lets you know you can get through it too.
Yeah.
There's a power in that, right? So that's the first thing I suggest. I don't know why I don't suggest prayer first, because that really should be the first thing I suggest.
Yeah.
But that sounds so cliche so much. It's not as tangible as people say, God ain't gonna put more, you could bear. I don't want to hear that when I'm going through that. I want to hear, what's the plan? How do I get through this? Right.
And people don't want to hear that. So you're absolutely right.
So the thing is that what I've learned is when you're going to talk to someone, do not talk to someone that's in the same boat as you. Talk to someone who maybe graduated to the plane.
Correct.
Right? So we're not on equal playing field. Talk to someone that is well versed in it, who has been successful in it, not to someone who was on a plane headed in a different direction, not someone that is on the boat and their boat is sinking too. That is the worst person to go to. That is like running into a burning building.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense. So I had to learn that, and I also had to learn not to go to the yes men. The yes friends, the ones like, girl, yes, because they're going to feed into whatever you want to hear to make it right, even though it could be wrong. You need to go to people who maybe think differently. And I remember I used to, for a time, it was someone I used to go to, and I'll say, please tell me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to just hear that I'm right. Like, please tell me if I'm wrong so I can understand. I'll tell you who it was when we get off, because I won't say their name, but please tell me if I'm looking at this the wrong way, because I saw them as someone that was more mature, that was married, and I saw them as like, it made sense. The other person I went to and started to go to recently was my childhood pastor, the one that married us, because I respect him and his foundation and what he stands for so much. And ultimately, I know he wants to see Donnie and I win. You cannot go to the loser section of the ring.
Mm.
Because there's some people who like that. You
Yeah.
got to remember, just like crabs in a bucket, sometimes people like to see that, and they
Yeah.
make it look like it's good until you get down and everybody snapping at each other. Like it looks good because being single look cool until you in the clearance section of the dating store. Like it looks good. Being single is just like when you were in summer school. Like when you're in school, you wish it was the summertime, and then by the time the summertime comes, you wish that you were back in school again to see your friends.
Yeah.
Everything looks fantastic from a different perspective until you're standing in it.
Mm.
Yeah, I think women have a different outlook than men. Well, no,
No,
actually,
that's
maybe
not true. Men are terrible too.
no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that a lot of times women will lend towards. Okay, there is a study out there that actually says
He always knows
the
his miscellaneous
higher
study.
study of women leaving men over men leaving women in marriages. And what that tells me is that, going off what you're saying, women are more inclined, not all, but
Repeat that study. What is it?
it's saying that women are more likely to initiate a divorce over a man.
Oh, there's a different reason for that.
But it could be different. What I'm saying is that women are more inclined in there's different scenarios for everybody. But the point is that what you're saying in relevance to what you're talking about is that women have a tendency to want to forge their own path alone on some level or look for something new, whatever the case may be. Men don't have that same tendency innately as a whole. As long as we have a certain couple things in place, then more than likely we're okay within reason.
Freddie, you know what he's talking about? There's a certain couple of things that men always say. It's like the three rules of men. Is that what you're saying?
No, there's no three rules of men.
That's what y'all say all the time.
I don't know what y'all are, but the
I
point.
I heard you say it.
But the point is, what my 20-year-old self? I don't know what it was, but the thing I'm saying is that. In relevance to this, at least, is that a lot of women will find themselves or could potentially find themselves by themselves, or out of a marriage because they didn't want to mesh into what the other person had to say or feel in those matters. So that but that also plays a part on both sides of the spectrum. Really, it's not a one-sided thing.
I think that either way it goes to give it some less sexism and more diplomacy is this, right? People are people in general. You have a set of women and men who are going to surround your marriage with love and tenderness and be a village. And then you have a set of men and women who are going to surround your village and be henchmen.
And that's what we had to figure.
There's a difference. That's in the people that love you and the people who like you. You can find henchmen in love and you can find village in like. It can work either way, right? And the thing is, it's about actually maybe vetting your circle, right? You got to vet them. Everybody is not welcome in your marital circle. Everyone is not welcome in that.
Absolutely not.
And so even to my own fault, I used to talk to Donnie's mom all the time when Donnie used to make me upset, right?
Like, why are you doing
and
that?
I just because I felt like
come spank me. Like,
I
why
felt
do you
like
keep
I felt like
my
hold
mother?
on, wait a minute, I didn't do that when you did this. I did definitely do that. So I used to go to her all the time, and I didn't feel better. I didn't feel worse. I felt the same. It did nothing for me, right? As a matter of fact, sometimes it gave me legs that I didn't need to have because I'm listening to her through an angry place.
Mm.
She's angry, so I'm angry, so we just out here just angry, and so.
But there's two sides. I used to stand with your father,
right. So the thing is that at the end of the day, even the people, like I said, the people that love you most are not always the best. They're not always the best. So when you're building your village, because you can have all sorts of villages, right? When you're building your village for your marriage, then you need to be so precise. You don't need to go to the people that have the same problems as you and lean in and say, how we work this out together. Maybe you got one or two of those, but you need some real solid
success stories,
foundational people in your life to be able to kind of go through that. I think I've heard Donnie say, why do you always want to be, not to me directly, but it's okay to not be the smartest person in the room, right? So if that's the case, that means that it's uncomfortable, but then you can grow in that. I always felt intimidated by being in a room full of hodgepodge people. I have no idea why, but that is, I feel like it is so intimidating to me. I shut down.
I have no, yeah. Every
And
time,
Donnie doesn't care. Donnie like, no, I'm supposed to be here. This is what it is. Like, I'm like,
right.
okay.
I want to learn. I want to learn what y'all talking about.
Right.
So
So
I'm going to figure out what you're talking about so I can be elevated.
of course, but you would never expect it. No one would ever expect that personality defect to come from me ever. If you saw me in these places, you'd be like, so what is this, right?
She'll sit in the corner and clam
and just have nothing to say. We just gonna sit here and I'm gonna look stupid and dumb. Like that's just what it is.
But that's when I come alive. That's when I come alive.
Eventually, though, I'll come around. Eventually, once I see they're still human and I still understand they still bleed like I bleed, then you come around to understand that you're supposed to be here too, right? And so I say all of that to say, if I put myself around empowering couples, not just financially, not just spiritually, but people who actually love each other beyond spirituality, love each other beyond financially, love each other beyond beauty, but just love each other, you will find yourself in such an amazing scenario of people. It is just that simple. It's not all, I mean, you can find some people who love each other and don't believe in Christ at all. You can find some people that hate each other and they say they believe in God the most, right? So you find it all over the place, but it's just surrounding your village, meaning my spouse, with what looks like the marriage we want to have. So that would be my advice to that.
This has been good.
Yeah, it's great.
I didn't even know what time
That part.
It's okay. We did this before.
Right.
It's a good conversation.
Right.
That's meat and potato stuff.
It's so needed because you got some people on this line that are probably dealing with this very thing and just other things, and they're afraid to talk. They don't want to talk because the judgment or the looking down on, or are you doing that, or whatever, and then the business gets out. And so I'm so thankful for you all coming on and talking about this because you've lived it, you've experienced it, and you're actual alive human showing people that two people can who love God, this thing can work no matter what.
Yeah.
You could have divorced if you wanted to on both ends, like you both have been saying all night. You could have, but you saw the bigger picture, and Nadine, you pulled it right out. I mean, that God ain't pulling out on us. You know what I'm saying? And He's sticking with us, and He's showing us unconditional love, and we just gotta learn how to get past this and that. We got to get past that and understand what we're really doing and what we're put together for. Like we were saying earlier, things that you two have created, had you not been together, yeah, you probably could have created, probably would have took longer. But the fact that y'all are together for the purpose that y'all are together for and being fruitful just don't only mean having kids. You know, y'all are producing things, and things are happening because of your covenant with one another. And so we just appreciate y'all. Y'all gotta come back.
Yeah, I mean, they just express all avenues of life to where, I mean, even when we were younger, she would always say, well, my mom's not gonna accept you because we're not yoked, meaning we're not in the same church. But you can be in the same church, go to the same church, and still not be yoked in your finances, still not yoked in your beliefs, not all parameters of life, whatever. So that yoke thing, people, just like gifts. I heard a speaker today that I listened to quite often, or what have you. He was like, you guys are both gifted. Donnie can do amazing things, and Nadine, she's amazing in the salon, in terms of her creativity with the hair, natural hair, relaxed hair and all that stuff, or what have you. So I mean, if you guys only had, how do they put it? If you only had church gifts, you can only use those gifts in the church. You follow what I'm saying? But you guys are talented in all different parameters of your life or whatever, and it shows or whatever. How yoked you guys are, and it's just amazing to how you can come from, where you were 20 years ago, as kids. You know, you guys got married as kids. I mean, that's
24. Yeah, we were super young.
Baby.
We had our first child at 23. Like we were so young.
wow.
When I look at my 21-year-old son, I'm like, he got like 2 years before we had him.
Yeah.
And this boy is so stupid. We love him. But you know, he's immature. That's what I'm saying. He's not stupid. He's a smart kid, but he's crazy.
Right.
And I'm like, we were just as crazy. And it's
that's where you got it from.
no, of course. So we accept it. We accept 100%.
Right.
But because the apple don't fall far, the tree and the apple are usually pretty close. You know, so the fact of the matter is, what I will say is this: if I had any last thing to say, first of all, living in shame and living in guilt gets you nowhere fast. Right? There are so many closeted people about the shameful things that happen in their life that if we all just became a little transparent, we could carry each other so much further. The one quality and lack of quality that Donnie loves and hates is that when it comes down to my life, my story, I am so transparent about it. Because if I am not transparent, that means that I'm not even okay with what God did in my life. Right? And that's a big thing for me, because I didn't have to be here like this.
Right.
I didn't have to change. I didn't have to have the ability to look at myself in the mirror and say, you know what, she's good. I didn't have to have that. I could have been on the side of the road, drugged out, messed up. It could have been a lot of stuff that could go on in the middle of foolishness, right?
Yeah.
And so if I choose to act like I never been through anything, that means I remove the ability of what God did in my life. That means that I don't give him the opportunity to be looked at and understood that he did something for me.
That's right.
It's just like, you know, when you give somebody something, they sit around here and they act so ungrateful for that.
Yeah.
That's the same thing. That is the same literal gift in a tangible way.
Right.
And so I would be negligent at best to sit here and act like he didn't do something miraculous. I'll use that word in my life, in my marriage, because there's plenty of people who did not have the opportunity to have what I have.
Right.
It's simple. So for me, I don't care if you know about what I did. I could care less. I'll tell it to you with a straight face and feel nothing about it, because the only reason to feel shame now is if I was still currently the same person.
Correct.
I feel something different, and that's strength. You imagine when you go into the gym and you feel so good because you done figured out how to be able to get gains and cuts and stuff like that. That took a lot of work. That took a lot of effort. You're never going to dumb that or dial that back and say, nah, I ain't going to the gym. No, you're going to tell people the story. I was this big and you're going to tell people that story because you're proud of that, right?
Right.
That change that you made in your life. So why wouldn't you do that with other things? It just takes a step. That's it. So people who are out there and they're ashamed of that, sometimes if you just step out of the clothing called shame and just step out of that clothing and put on a new clothing to say, okay, how do we get through this? Then it makes shame so much of a lesser weight and getting through it so much more of a bigger weight.
Come on, bars.
Yeah.
All right, Nadine, before we go, Donnie, before we go, I just want to read some of the comments because I just want y'all to hear it's not just us that appreciate. I just want to run through these comments right quick. So Jenny says, thank you, brothers and Sister Neil. This has helped me again. Thanks. So, Ira Booker says, not a you or I, but we are. We. Then she said, powerful. I treated him like home. Remember when you said that?
I do. That was good. I was joking. What it was.
She said, then there was a purity of happiness. She said, I understand this. Chrissy says, hey, Chrissy says, so true. You have to always remember your why. That was you, Donnie.
You don't feel like
Donnie, you get a point. You get a point. Wound growth. Because you are not getting the infection out.
That's me. 2 points. That's okay.
For that for me too. The we was me.
Okay. We're gonna see how this pans out.
Yeah. Okay. Then Tim Hancock says, You can make it and win wounded. Keith Richardson says, "You guys gonna make me get a wife. Go
That's
get a
right.
wife."
Amen. Amen. That's right.
Tracy says, "Thank you for this discussion." Ira again says, "Good stuff. Your why will be your anchor." So they said why twice, Donnie. I don't know.
No, but they said your why would be your anchor. That was when I came back in and said that stuff. And God said, listen, I still won. That's okay. If I win, you win. It's all right.
Adrian Franklin Brown, that's the one who come into the shop. You know her. Y'all be joking all the time. She
Yes.
said, "Speak, Nadine." So
That's right.
I don't
That's
even know
right.
what she was talking about.
Don't worry about it. It was all of it.
Let me see. Covenant before God, mismanagement of home. That was big. That was huge. Thank you for having this discussion.
That was definitely me.
No, you spoke on home. I spoke on mismanaging.
That's fine. That's the game y'all really should have played. Was at the end. Thank you.
Listen, y'all are funny. Y'all have dropped some bars on this evening. Y'all have empowered some folks out here. And that's what it's mainly about.
Perfect example of living life forward, but learn backwards. I heard that.
Okay, Fred, get a point too. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say it again, friends. Living life forward.
Living life forward. I can't take credit for that.
I'm gonna have it on
I
his
can't
shirt.
take credit for that. Darius Daniels. I mean, this guy. He's like his thought process is unthinkable, and I love this guy. And I just wish I could
say it again. Living life forward and what?
Yeah, living life.
And learning backwards.
Yeah, living life forward, but learn backwards. You learn backwards.
Huh.
I mean, you guys 20 years ago.
Right.
Look at you now. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? That's big.
It is crazy. Like it's true. They say they waste the youth on the youth. It's the same kind of concept. Like
the youth is wasted on the young or something like that.
Yeah, but it's true. Like you wish you had all your youth now with all this old knowledge, right?
Knowledge, absolutely.
Yeah, it's true. I like it.
I'm sorry, Nadine, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
What we always do to close out, the name of the show is The Neil's Appeal, right? And so it's called The Neil's Appeal because we want, at the end of every show, we want some tactical and practical action steps for our people. And Donnie, you said a good one about that 30-day thing that you you still count points.
Hey, that changed our lives.
Listen. So I don't know if we should go for the 30-day. Maybe we should do a week at a time. I don't know, but
no, I think don't limit your. First of all, stop that. Don't limit yourself to that because that means that's as much as you think you can do.
Well, and that depends on the relationship.
No, it doesn't. It does not because the thing is, if I say, okay, I'm gonna go a week at a time, that is so not enough. Like, yeah, okay, cool. You could, baby. That's like saying I want to do it day by day. No, you got to hold yourself accountable. Listen, just like when you say you're gonna go to the gym, nobody says I'm gonna go a week at a time. They say I'm gonna try for 30 days. I'm gonna try this. So 30 days
it takes 21 days to become a habit.
So that's called commitment. If you can't commit to 30 days, you can't commit to the rest of your life. That's for sure.
Right.
30 days is not much. So no, it's 30 days. But I also think as an addendum to that is that what you should also look for in those 30 days is remembering, like he said, your why. Write down every day something different about why you love this person, or show them in a different way why it is that you love them, and make them very aware and be intentional about that. Because at the end of the day, I could be doing all of this stuff just to make it through the 30 days, right? Just to make it 30 days. But when you're actually intentional about it, you will because for me, at first, I was like, I'm going to do this because I'm so tired of being in this place. But it felt so good. Like it felt like a weight was lifted off. So I enjoyed it. And you will find that in that time, if you're being authentic to yourself and you want because we self-sabotage, you want yourself to be happy, then it's going to make it so much easier just to find that reason because you're with that person for a reason.
Right.
You're trying 30 days for a reason. That means you in it. So you might as well just give it all you got because Donnie's dad said to him a long time ago, if you can't leave and feel like you left no crumbs on the table in so many words, like you did every single thing that you could do to make this marriage work, you've done every single thing you could do, then you can walk away and feel like I have nothing left. But if you know that you could have maybe tried something different, something, then you just not off scotch free. And furthermore, you're not off scotch free anyway, unless we know all those reasons. So just try it. Like it's not gonna hurt you to try it, except for your pride if you lack humility. That's it.
Right, right.
So
And
give it to us again, Donnie, and give the say what you was about to say and whatever that, and then go ahead on and finish with the Neil's appeal. Whatever you was about to say.
okay, so to reiterate my beliefs in this scenario is one thing is that if you're in a relationship and you feel like you can't figure it out from this point, there's less hope than what it was before, and an option on the table is to leave and go somewhere else. The one thing you have to remember is that if you're not a perfect person, neither is the person you're with. You have to fix something to be with somebody else, no matter what. You have to work on yourself at some point in time. Why not work on it as a couple together for the best possible version of yourself? Give yourself 30 days at a time. Take that time and put your best foot forward and give that person the best version of yourself and vice versa. And let that work with inside yourself and make it become a habit 30 days at a time. It's not a lot of time. It's not a lot of effort in just being kind, courteous, loving. Put everything else aside. That's one thing we got to do. Put everything else aside. No matter whatever happened before that point, argument, fussing, fighting, doesn't matter. At that point in time, this is day one. 30 days, best foot forward. And you repeat that process as God willing, as long as you may live.
And consider 30 days is not that long. You know how quickly you get to the first of the month? Trying to figure out how come it's time to pay the mortgage again. It is not that long. Like it is.
It's and
like
once
that.
You start to see the change, which you will. If two people are putting their best foot forward for 30 days, like-minded, equally yoked, working towards the same goal, it becomes an avalanche of positivity. Because at first it's tad bit hard, just a tad bit at first. As you see the positivity, you see the conversation getting lighter, the mood gets lighter, the intimacy, everything starts to move in that same direction, and motivates you to push even harder for the next 30 days.
So I have this. Here's my appeal to the Neil's people, right? If you are considering divorce. If you're considering divorce, my appeal would be before you go down to the courthouse, just give it 30 days.
That's
30
good.
days.
That's
Before
good.
you go down there, just give it 30 days because you just don't know. Like, just please, because I don't like, I used to be so okay with people getting divorced. I'm like, God, are you getting divorced? Oh my God. But that was my headspace then, right? That was my headspace then because I was in this ugly place, right? Now, when I hear that, it's like it breaks my heart for them.
Right.
Because it's like you're telling me somebody that you love is passing away.
Yeah.
Thing. Oh my God, I am so sorry to hear that. What can we do? Right. And I think that if it was any advice I could give to anyone, if today is a day that you're like, you know what, I cannot personally look at you in your face anymore. You make me sick, whatever it is. Just sit back and take a deep breath for a second. And just consider, can you wait 30 days to give it everything you have? Just pour into that person the way you want God to pour into you. And I almost guarantee that you will not be at the courthouse 30 days later.
That's good.
But it has to be on both sides of the spectrum. It can't be a one-sided thing.
No, I'm not talking to a singular person. Hopefully I'm talking to a couple.
Yeah.
So
a whole lot of discipline.
Right. I consider and I hope that is the case. Because even if that is what it's a singular person, like Donnie said, maybe bring the idea to your spouse.
Yes.
And you have to lead by example. Sometimes you have to lead by example because Donnie had to lead by example with me because I wasn't willing to budge. And he was willing to like kind of humble himself to even bring the thought to me.
Wow.
So that would be my appeal.
It is great. I love it. The Neil's appeal. Y'all stay tuned. We're going to do a marriage retreat.
Yay, that'll be so exciting.
Yeah, we're working on that for next year. And I want all my guests that we've interviewed, we're going to do something special and all that type of stuff. We're going to have prom night and all that, get all dressed up. And
that'd be cool.
Yeah, I know. That'd be cool.
Yeah, so
y'all at Donnie's house.
Look at it. Fred had to laugh at himself. Wow. I'm okay with it. See, that's the difference. I'm okay with it. Right, Kelly? Let's do it. And I know where Fred was going with this. We're going to have to reset our 30 days. Fred. Wow. Wow. That's so nice. Wow.
Y'all, we love y'all. Thank y'all so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you for inviting us on this. This is amazing.
We thank you so much for your vulnerability, your transparency, man. There's no transformation without transparency, and I believe y'all helped a lot of people tonight. If they want to be honest, y'all put some fire in the chat, put some something, fire and hearts and all that. Y'all, let's thank the Tarpleys for coming out, air claps for coming out and just blessing the Neil's Appeal connection. Fred, you got anything else you want to say?
No, I'm good. They y'all professionals. That's all I'm saying.
We love y'all. Argue like cats and dogs after this. No, I'm just
hey, it's still all good. Hey, 30 days.
30 days. That's right.
Yeah, y'all start over. Yeah, everybody. And when you get to the 30, go again.
Reset.
There you go.
Yeah,
30 days, Fred. We're gonna do
what
it.
number you on, Nay? I'm on number day 1. Day number 1. We had to restart. It's okay, but we're working on 30, so that's okay.
We love y'all. We thank y'all.
Love y'all.
Fred, we doing it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
We doing it.
Yeah. Oh, you guys are gonna do the 30-day challenge? I love it for you.
We love y'all. Thank y'all. Good night.